Hey guys, it's Michael, Bryce, and Riley. Before we start the show today, we have some Patreon shout-outs.
Was that a Bigfoot mimicking a bird?
Yep. This is a list of all the wonderful supporters of the show who have joined the other side, our Patreon feed, where for a pledge of $5 a month, you can unlock 3 to 5 bonus episodes. Thanks to everyone who's joined this past month, especially during this difficult time. We really appreciate the support. Without further ado, here it comes. The shout-outs. Zoe Egner.
Thank you.
Michelle Connor.
Thank you.
Gabby Loporto.
Thanks, Gabby.
Samuel Bennett.
Thank you.
Hannah Verdison.
Thank you.
Kate Littlefield.
Thanks, Kate.
Christopher. Sorry,
Thank you, Christopher and Christopher.
Bunny Tree Evil Eye.
Thanks, Bunny.
Monique Nicole.
Thank you.
Jess.
Thanks.
Jordan Perez.
Thank you.
Stephanie Powers.
Thank you.
Haley S.
Thanks.
Leslie Travis.
Thank you.
Mark Minnick Jr.
Thanks, Mark.
Lindsay Ann.
Thank you.
One word. Nettie.
Thank you.
Katie Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Peter Ewell.
Thanks.
Jared Coe.
Thank you, Jared.
Jessica Kirk.
Thank you.
Seth.
Thank you.
Sean Pinello.
Thank you, Sean.
Robert Dean Ware.
Thank you.
Barbara Westmoreland.
Thank you.
Paige.
Thanks.
Rich India.
Thanks. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Rich India. I felt bad. I got distracted because I felt like I said Paige on a downbeat. So I'm going to go Paige.
Paige. Thanks, Paige.
Back. Rich
Big
India.
shout out. Thank you.
Carrie Sanchez.
Thank you.
Nivette Faulkner.
Thanks, Nivette.
Papa Woody.
Thank you.
Scott Whitehead.
Thank you.
Timothy Fry.
Thank you.
Cosmic Haha.
Thank you, Cosmic.
That must be the trickster spirit that keeps getting into our Zencaster file.
Totally. Quit messing with my Zencaster.
Gustavo Ramirez.
Thank you.
Andrew Mullen.
Thank you.
Crystal Lee Famalama Ding Dong.
Thank you.
You guys are getting creative. I appreciate it. Here comes Flemily.
Thank you.
Alyssa Damaso.
I'm imagining that's Emily who has a phlegm problem, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, we thank you.
Alyssa Damaso.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Amy Wilkins.
Thanks, Amy.
Megan Miller.
Thank you.
Graham Boykin.
Thanks, Graham.
Jay O'Connell.
Oh, yeah. Jay O'Connell, True Crime Bigfoot. Thanks, Jay.
Hey, thanks, Jay. And I'm checking the Gmail right now to see if we had any other shout outs today to give. No, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the show. Oh, actually, I believe Kara Sexton, you came in at the last minute, Kara. Fantastic. Oh, thank you, guys. We love you. You know the information. You can join us on the other side if you want to. We'll be happy to see you there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the show.
It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I am your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
And our super producer,
Riley Bray.
Guys, Wet Hot Alien Summer blazes on.
You know it.
Hell yeah.
We're focusing on stories of the extraterrestrial variety here on the podcast and our Patreon series, Bigfoot Collectors Club, The Other Side.
Cool.
Right now, the latest release, you can hear Riley talking all about the strange structure out in the California desert known as the Integratron.
Integratron.
This is a
You have to say it like that.
Yeah.
It's a rule.
Integratron. Really fun. I just basically repeated Bryce's joke, so we're off to a great start. But you definitely, if you love Riley, and we all do, you got to hear this Riley Files episode. For just a pledge of $5 a month, you can support the show and unlock 3 to 5 bonus episodes every month at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club. You heard the shout outs. You know what it's about. And then, guys, big news. For those of you asking for new merch, guess what?
Oh, yeah.
We have a brand new Wet Hot Alien Summer t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
By the amazing James Mulholland. He's the guy who designed the album cover for Bigfoot Collectors Club, that awesome Bigfoot with the tent in the woods. It shows up on your favorite podcast app. James has knocked this design out of the park.
Yeah, it is so cool.
Mm-hmm. Maybe my favorite thing we've done.
Yeah, it's a super awesome retro 80s sci-fi feel. It's got sort of a worn look to it. So you can go over to wearecampfire.media, our network's website, click on shop, and then scroll down, and you'll find the new shirt, Wet Hot Alien Summer by James Mulholland. Very cool. I got to get one myself. Okay, guys. Let's begin the show. Today's guest, she needs no introduction. She's a comedian. She's a TV writer. She's a best-selling New York Times author. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show, Godmother of the Bigfoot Collectors Club, Jen Kirkman.
Yay!
Hi. Yay! I'm excited.
Jen.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Jen.
So nice to hear you guys.
It's so nice to hear your voice.
This is the second time during the pandemic that we've had you on our virtual podcast, in your virtual podcast clubhouse. How are you holding up? We're checking in with all of our guests.
I know I'm not surprised it's still going on.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Even if we had done everything correctly, this will be the rest of the year, if not early next. So there's no sense of what? Oh my God, I have to readjust to more staying inside. I'm pretty used to it. I think I'm okay. I have my moments. But you know what? To be honest, I have less hours of the day are bad than they are good. I wouldn't even say 1 hour a day is bad.
I'd say I have a solid 20 minutes of just pure freak out, and then I get along with the rest of my day.
I think that I think I might have the same thing. And sometimes mine isn't even 20 minutes in a row. It could be broken up throughout the day with different topics. Will I ever touch a human again? What if my parents die? Oh, I might need to work. All different topics as related to the pandemic.
Yes, it's just a nice sprinkling of chocolate jimmies of fear all day long, but not too bad. I'm holding up okay. Bryce, Riley, we haven't checked in with one another for a minute. How are you guys doing?
Bryce, you go.
Me go? I'm doing great. I love it. I can't take enough of it. I want to just stay home with the kids forever.
We can't tell if you hate your family or not.
You know
It's
what?
up
No,
in the air.
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's I like Jen. I loved her answer. I think I'm okay. Yeah. No. Look, I'm fine. The family's good. It's scary times. I think a lot about, look, I'm doing okay, right? Like my bills are still getting paid. I have a house over my roof over my head and food on my table, and it's not easy living. I mean, we're struggling, but God, I think about everybody else who this really has affected, who are, God, getting thrown out on the street, and those mortgages are coming, and bills are fucking keep coming. And I don't know, it's scary times, man. It's just, you really get the sense of what it might be like, right around the time of our first Great Depression, or even right around the time of early 30s Germany. You're like,
Ooh.
So it's
let's have a little of both.
Yeah, let's have a little bit of both. It's I don't know. It's exciting times. Exciting probably isn't the best word, but
I'm with you though. I like how everyone these days answers how you're doing with like sort of a half question. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
I think
Good.
I'm all right.
Yeah, but I'm good. overall, I don't know. Same. I miss people. I miss shows
Totally.
and
Oh.
going places. But I'm in the same boat with Jen. When this thing started happening, I was like, oh, this is it for a while now. It just you could just see it all playing out. So we're here, and I've been expecting it. Grace and I are working on the backyard. That's like a new Philip the Day project, and smashing rocks with a sledgehammer, it turns out, is a really great way to deal with all of this.
Wow.
Just channel all of that uncertainty into the end of that sledgehammer, and you're okay.
I think we need to close out this episode with an outro of just the sound of you smashing rocks with a sledgehammer.
Yes.
I can make that happen. That's definitely what I will be doing when we finish recording.
Well, I'm glad you guys are all hanging in there. We hope you're hanging in there at home. Now, for the next hour or so, let's just slip away into the world of the weird and take our mind off of reality in its most mundane and painstakingly frustrating form. So this is an L-Files episode. We're going to crack open your listener stories. And if you have had a brush with the world of the unexplained, please write to us at BigfootCollectorsClub@gmail.com, and you might hear your story right here on the program. But first, we have some breaking... BCC News!
We'll never get it.
That's pretty good.
All right, Bryce, why don't you kick it off? I know you have some wet-hot alien news for us.
I do have some wet-hot alien news, and I'm actually pretty excited about this one. So, as I follow a lot of, just hashtag UFO Twitter, there's a lot of talk on the airwaves about what's coming down the pike at the New York Times. So much so, in fact, that Mysterious Universe writes, the New York Times appears to be preparing another huge UFO revelation. Paul Seaborn reports, if the rumors circulating amongst the UFO research community are real, the New York Times may have to add a second motto, all the UFO news that's fit to print. After being the leader in breaking the USS Nimitz Tic Tac UFO videos and stories and the existence of the Pentagon's secret advanced aerospace threat identification program, known as ATIP, a number of sites are dropping hints that the New York Times has another blockbuster revelation on the verge of being released to the public. What could it be? Get ready to be shocked, disappointed, overwhelmed, underwhelmed, or other. I don't know, quote, if you saw it, but in the last few hours, an indiscretion has begun to circulate in the UFO world that the New York Times is preparing to document the existence of a government program to recover crashed UFOs. Yeah, so, and I'll stop reading as I always do with my BCC news and just kind of spitball it from here, but a lot of talk has been circulating, especially with those Davis Wilson documents, which Richard Dolan called the leak of the century, which appears to put a lot of detail and proof into the idea and the fact that there might be special access programs that are tasked with recovering crashed retrievals, which is really interesting, right? So if the New York Times is working on this, which so many of these UFO writers and bloggers are talking about, probably because the New York Times is reaching out to a lot of these guys, asking for quotes and research materials. And that's how these rumors get circulated. It'll be very interesting to see what bomb drops comes out of the New York Times, because the last time they did it in December of 2017 with the revelation of a $20 million program that was tasked with researching UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, it really changed the paradigm of how the general public viewed UFOs.
True.
No more was it such a taboo or silly topic, the giggle factor kind of got let out a little bit, and people were like, maybe these things are real. So it's interesting. It's very interesting to see. And I'm really excited to look for, it's supposed to drop sometime next week, I hear, of what the New York Times is going to reveal and release.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Now maybe I'm projecting or hoping. There's something to this that, anytime there is an unidentified flying object, That's usually what it comes back to is that could be anything. It could be drones or some other countries developing a thing. There's something about this that sounds like there will be doubt that it might just be an unidentified flying object, and that it's more going to be hinting and tipping to the side of from other galaxies. Am I crazy here?
No, you're absolutely not crazy at all. Listen, there's been the naysayers that have come out against those 3 UFO videos that have been like, said, oh, you know what? That's just a cold bird on their radar. And it's so stupid to think that these, it's like the cold bird theory, right? And that these.
Wait a minute. So slow down.
The bird is chilly?
That's what I thought you meant.
Yes, the bird is chilly, and that's how they're coming up on these gun radar cameras as like these sort of like white anomalous things flying over the ocean. It's so fucking ridiculous. I'm glad you're laughing because it's so stupid to think that these U.S. Navy pilots flying multi-million-dollar craft that carry a nuclear armament can't tell a fucking bird from an object that's outmaneuvering their F-22 Raptors. It's so silly to think. Right,
we got to work on the cover stories. That one's not cutting it.
I don't understand how a cold bird would be alive.
Well,
let alone flying.
Right,
like the bird needs a little cardigan. Like I'm chilly.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. It's so ridiculous. I mean, this is coming from these scientists who just want to debunk the fact that these videos released by the government, by the Pentagon, are anything other than something mundane to this earth. It's so fucking ridiculous, And look, this isn't just happened from December 2017 on. People have been seeing and reporting these same objects that do these incredible physics-defying maneuvers for centuries, if not thousands of years. But finally, we're learning now that our government hasn't stopped checking into these things and spending our taxpayer dollars researching and providing government-funded programs to try and assess these things. It's been happening ever since the 50s. It continues on to this day. And this could be a real bomb drop that what they're actually doing is there might be a crash retrieval program, a crash recovery program. Very Roswell-esque, very blowing the lids off this thing. So it's crazy.
It's just an exposed mass grave of dead cold birds.
Well, Trump did say something, he can't hold in classified information very well. He tends to shout it out.
Right.
And he said something bizarre just in one of his stream of conscious things. A few weeks ago, he was like, Area 54, very interesting things that, he was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Don Jr. Interviewed his father on Father's Day, and he asked what so many would want to ask, what's going on with Roswell?
Oh, that's what it was.
To which he replied, very, very interesting things happening. I've learned a few things, and it's very, very interesting. So I don't know what he was hinting at.
Well, I'll tell you what's going on in Roswell. Not a whole hell of a lot. That Army base that Air Force base isn't even functional anymore. So there's nothing going on in Roswell right now.
Well, of course, he was referring to the famed 1957 crash that took place in that
1947.
47. My fault. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Where a supposed disc crashed and bodies came out of it. 3.5 foot bodies. So interesting stuff.
Fun.
Okay, well, moving on to the world of weird stuff. Guys, this Chicago Mothman story will not die. Jen, I don't know if you were present for one of these stories this past year, but people are seeing this giant black winged creature that a lot of people are describing looking like a demon. Other people are saying looks like the Mothman from Point Pleasant, West Virginia back in the 60s. It's a giant black entity with glowing red eyes. And it's been seen a lot this year in and around Chicago's O'Hare Airport. Wow. And there was just another major sighting at the end of June. And I'm reading some of this from SingularFortean.com. Witnesses report terrifying encounter with huge owl that had glowing red eyes at O'Hare International Airport. So this guy, Manuel Navarrete, works for a site called UFO Clearinghouse. He's been investigating this stuff. He spoke to a woman who said that she and her friend encountered a huge owl with glowing red eyes that looked like they belonged to the devil himself near a parking lot at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport on June 30th. So this is what the witness said. I had just gotten off work and was walking with my friend towards the parking lot to go home. As we walked, we saw something fly over us. At first, it looked like a huge owl, but it was solid black. The thing flew over us and then landed by the edge of the parking lot and was just standing there. We again thought it was an owl until this son of a bitch stood up and was standing about 7 feet tall.
Wow.
My friend shrieked, and that's when this expletive, I'm going to say fucker, turned around and we saw 2 glowing red eyes that looked like they belonged to the devil himself. That's when we both screamed, and this demon spread his wings out and lunged at us while screeching at us. It sounded like a bunch of little girls all screaming at once.
Amazing.
Which is terrifying, by the way. If you just saw that in a horror movie, you would shit yourself. And was the scariest thing I have ever heard. We ran for my car, and this thing acted like it wanted to come after us as we ran to the car. It took a step in our direction before it took off into the air and was out of sight in about 3 seconds.
That's crazy.
We could still hear it screeching as it flew off into the night sky. I can tell you that I never felt so scared and all but pissed myself from fright. I thanked the Lord for watching over us and not letting that thing attack us or drag us off to hell.
Thank you, baby Jesus. Yeah, that sounds like more than a sighting. That sounds like a fucking encounter, like a close encounter.
And the other woman refused to talk about it. She didn't want to talk about it because she said she's been having nightmares ever since. She thinks it's the devil, and she's too scared to comment on it. But this thing has been. We talked about the maintenance worker who was smoking a cigarette and saw it near one of the like runways or a warehouse building in O'Hare. Listen to all of these sightings that have happened just in the past year or so. May 31st, sighting by a pilot at O'Hare International Airport who said that he and his co-pilot saw a large black human-like creature fly up and into the sky while they were taxiing on the runway. March 3rd, by investigator Manuel Navarrete again. He saw it near O'Hare, so this guy's been researching and seeing it. February 21st, security guard at O'Hare saw what appeared to be a very tall human, but it was solid black with glowing red eyes. January 23rd, from a man who said he saw an egg-shaped object fly over O'Hare and shine a brilliant blue light to the ground, through which a person appeared to be taken aboard the craft.
What?
This is fucking Mothman.
Dude, it's like
prophecies
a modern
all
day,
over again.
Yeah, it's like a modern day Point Pleasant happening because, you know, Jen, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but they made a movie on the Mothman starring Richard Gere, but at a point in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Was it in the 67, Michael, or something?
Yeah.
All these sightings, hundreds, tens, and 20s of sightings of like this strange bird with red eyes, UFOs as well. And it all sort of led to the collapsing of the Silver Bridge, which killed 60 plus some people on Christmas Eve. And people started seeing this, you know, these presents floating in this river in their dreams and stuff. So people often equate the Mothman to sort of a harbinger of doom. And as fast as it came into this town, it just stopped. After that bridge collapsed, you know, the sightings just stopped. But they've been picking up again 50 plus years later in and around the town of Chicago.
Well, and this has been going on much longer.
Is this in mainstream news as well?
This is it, not a little bit. Vice magazine covered it, but this is from,
that's pretty mainstream.
This is basically from a cryptid website that's making keeping track of all this stuff. I mean, listen, December 6th there's a sighting, December 3rd there's a sighting, November 26th, 7 foot tall person with wings outside of O'Hare. September 29th, a toddler-sized bat creature running like a gorilla near Barrington.
I mean, here's
October
the thing,
30th,
Jen. It's
a
like,
large winged humanoid in Park Ridge. All throughout October. This goes back to the summer of 2019. Of the in and around O'Hare Airport itself. This is crazy stuff. So I'll put a link to this article if you guys want to go through and read about all the sightings. But this is like some real high strangeness.
people already have a hard enough time, especially scientists and skeptics, of dealing with the UFO phenomenon, let alone when you're telling them there's a giant bat or a moth flying around with demon red eyes. They're not going to take it seriously. But listen, this shit is happening. And you know what's crazy is this thing is probably, or it might be related to the UAP phenomenon, because a lot of times when people report this thing flying away, it doesn't flap its wings. It just sort of rises up and with like a strange metallic buzzing sound and floats off into the distance. So a lot of people think this isn't like, you know, just some giant bat, but it's part of this overall phenomenon, somehow related to what UFOs are and what UAPs are. It's all very strange. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
I cannot wrap my mind around it. So it's not that I think anyone's lying. I just go, no.
We got to go. We should all get on a plane and go there tomorrow.
Now's the time.
Yeah, if you're going to fly domestic in the U.S., now's the time to do it. Here, I have a question. Speaking of flying, is there any photos or video of this? Because you'd think if it's an airport, it's like one of the most highly surveilled places, especially an international airport, one of the most highly surveilled places on Earth.
I've seen a couple pictures online of people claiming that they have photos of it, but it's, you know, it's very small and blurry. I think we talked about one of those recently on the show. You know, it's funny, Riley, that you mentioned that, because in 2006, I believe it was, there was a massive UFO sighting above Chicago, above O'Hare.
That's right.
I remember that.
We'll probably do that here at some point before the end of the summer. But all these people saw it, and no one got a video of it, and no one got a photo of it.
So weird.
So it's just sometimes that's also seems to be part of the phenomenon. Is like, wait, why didn't anybody get a photo of this thing?
Yeah.
It's really, really weird stuff. Something's going on in Chicago. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time to dig into your L-Files. It's the worst. You're trying to defeat Darth Vader in a lightsaber battle, and then you lag, and then everybody kills you. It's not fun.
Yeah. Lagging and drifting are the enemy to the game player.
That's right.
Man, I can't stop thinking about that Mothman. So it really makes me like, I don't know. It's just like, if there's something happening, it's like you want to be a part of it. It'd be so great to like actually go interview some witnesses and see if you could see the thing for your damn self. But you know, there's a book written, isn't there, Michael, on the Chicago Mothman sightings?
It's called the Lake Michigan Mothman. I haven't read it yet,
Mothman.
But we got to check it out.
We should think about that for our book club. Let us know in the comments on our social media if you think we should do that one next. But before that, we have listener stories, and I'm gonna kick it off here with a listener named Casey. Hey guys, I just discovered the podcast and am addicted to binging these episodes. I already bought some merch. Please keep making it. We did, and you will love it. There are a couple of cool paranormal experiences I'd like to share. The first is regarding the ghost dream visitations Jen Kirkman talks about in episode 12. Ooh. Jen mentions her grandma saying, "We're all young here." Well, when my grandma passed away in 2017 at the age of 93, about a week after she passed, she visited me in a dream, and I don't remember if she said anything, but she did appear to me as a younger version of herself, of when her hair was still red and not white, and she was gardening, which she loved to do in life. Now, my father passed away about a month ago. I'm sorry to hear that, Casey. About a week after he passed, he appeared to me in a dream as a younger, healthy version of himself sitting in his spot on the couch in our old house where we grew up, which isn't in our family anymore. So if my experiences mean anything, we are all young there, wherever there is. The second thing I wanted to share with you is the town in upstate New York where I went to high school. which is famous for UFO sightings and citizens reporting abduction experiences. The town is called Pine Bush. Oh yeah, a name like that's for sure. You're going to get abductions there. And has an alien festival every year with a parade and aliens painted on storefronts and everything. No way. Sorry, I'll quit commenting to myself on these stories. I haven't had much in the way of UFO experiences, but one time when I was out and alone in my in-laws' yard in Pine Bush late at night, I did see some strange lights moving above the treetops in the distance vertically, horizontally, and diagonally in a way that does not make sense for any other aircraft. There was no sound associated with it. It looked just like a star, but was also not moving in the way a shooting star would. If you look into Pine Bush, you'll probably find some cool stories for the high strangeness section of the pod. Maybe you already have. I'm only on episode 15. Again, I'm a big fan. Keep doing your thing. Thanks, Casey. Well, thanks, Casey, for that wonderful letter. And yeah, you got a long way to go. I'm so excited for all the new episodes you get to hear. But that's crazy. What do you think about that, being all young in the afterlife? I'd be down for that. I'd probably go for my 33-year-old self. Boy, that was my peak, I think.
Bryce's Jesus year was also his sexiest year. What was 33? Why 33?
I don't know. It's my favorite number, and yeah, it was I don't know. I just felt like that was before the gray started coming in on the old beard, and yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't know. I just feel good about 33. That's all.
Fair enough.
I have a new theory.
Well, please share.
Well, when I had that dream, all of that, of course, is very true. But I was also I think I was, Bryce, about 33.
Okay. Love it.
I think my interpretation then was very literal because, again, my Nana looked younger. But I wonder if it's not just that because as I'm getting older now, of course, I don't want to walk around thinking, well, being young is the best thing you can be, or else I'll be pretty miserable from here on out. So I wonder if it's more like when we're younger, and I mean even young, a baby, there's a sort of newness and innocence and taking it all in that makes people younger on the other side. And our mind can't quite comprehend, so we just picture them looking young, but maybe they're a little more free of some of the I don't know how to explain it.
So you're basically like baby ghosts kind of look like babies.
Yeah, in a weird way, because let me put it this way. It could be one theory to say, well, when we're younger, we're free of our aches and our pains. But let's say somebody is disabled and they're 18, that's not necessarily being young is keeping them from having aches and pains and, challenges. So I wonder if it's less about a young body and more about they're closer. I feel like we come here from a spiritual realm and then you're returning to it.
Yeah.
So you feel young again, and our brains don't know how to comprehend that message. So we paint a picture in our dream of a young face.
I think you're spot on. I think if there is some sort of interaction with the afterlife, then our perception or our observation plays a direct part, right? So, maybe that's where our memories were the strongest, or maybe that's how we, as the perceiver, want to think of them, as young and healthy and vibrant. I mean, look, people do report older ghosts and people do report all different kinds of strange apparitions, but yeah.
Believe it or not, something like this happened to me 2 nights ago. And this has a whole different perspective on it. But so for those of you who have been following my Instagram, you may know that my dog, Violet, had to have surgery this week because sadly we found a mass on her spleen. And hopefully everything's okay. She's recovering really well. But it's been a rough summer because, I lost my bulldog Albie at the beginning of May. So to go through this so shortly after that, it's been not fun. But the other night, she was home. She'd been home for 2 nights. She was sleeping in bed with me. And again, she's doing great. I would have to say this was around 3:00 in the morning. I was I will call this a dream because it felt like a dream, but I felt what seems to be Albie jumping up into bed with us.
Oh, weird.
And I could hear him walk over to me. I could hear him sniffing Violet, checking on her, and then coming over to me. I could hear his little snorts. I could feel the heat of his breath. He leaned up to my ear, licked my ear. And before I like opened my eyes in the dream or whatever this was, I was like petting him, and I could feel just perfectly feel the way he felt when he was alive. And I opened my eyes and I looked at him, and there he was. And he looked about 5 years younger. He looked like him in his prime. It was really cool, and it wasn't scary. It wasn't, I was so super happy to see him. I was just like, hey, buddy. And he kind of like, did this little wiggle. And then like that he went away, and I drifted back into the, realm of sleep or whatever. I definitely think it was a dream, but it felt so real. And I could tell he was younger because just he had less gray, and he had an eye operation a few years back, and he had both of his eyes were really good. So he looked like he did like when he was in his prime. So I don't know. There's something to this, and you would think like, why would we even have physical forms on the other side? I guess we don't know, but I do like the idea that probably, and I think this goes along with what Jen's saying, that maybe your essence sort of reflects yourself in what you felt or your body felt to be the prime of your life. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it was very strange. But it was really cool, and it was very, very real, even though I'm pretty sure it was just a dream. But yeah, and then Pine Bush, we got to go there. I just pulled up
that sounds amazing.
I just pulled up their website, and of course, like everything else, it's canceled until their next one, June 12th, 2021, upstate New York.
Fun. Yeah, Pine Bush.
Very cool. And guys, if you've had any UFO encounters, write those in. We want those, and we can do a big UFO story L-Files episode at the end of Wet Hot Alien Summer. That would be really, really fun.
Especially if they were wet or hot.
Yes.
And occurred during the summer. That would be
and definitely if they were aliens.
No cold birds.
Yeah.
No cold
Don't
birds.
write with us with your fucking cold bird theories.
Keep that to yourself. Want wet, hot aliens.
We'll have a dry, cold bird winter. How about that?
Love it. Done.
All right, so this one's called Visitation at Night. Back when I was about 15 or 16, I had a strange encounter. It was the middle of the night, around 2 or 3 in the morning, when I rolled over from my bed with the feeling that something was very off. In my head, I felt a sensation that can only be described as swimmy. Like that feeling of confusion when you're swimming underwater. But if you turn upside down and the sensation of being upside down feels more unusual than it normally does when you're above water, it might not make sense, but that's the only way I can describe that. While I was under the sensation, I felt like I wanted to move, but couldn't. I don't know if that's sleep paralysis or not, but I have a distinct memory of feeling like I was unable to move. All right, so at the time, this is when things get interesting, I had an iguana. If you're unfamiliar with this type of lizard, they can grow to be fairly large. It was also around this time that we built a large cage from an old kitchen counter for the base, some lumber and chicken wire for her with a little ledge that she could climb up the wire and sit on near a lamp. That sat across from me in my room and was about 4.5 feet tall and about 2 feet wide and 5 feet long. A fairly large cage. Because iguanas are cold-blooded, God damn it, I told you guys no cold
What did we say?
birds, no cold
The cold
reptiles.
iguana theory.
Because they're cold-blooded, I usually left the lamp on most of the time and just got used to sleeping with it on. We kept the house fairly cool in the summer, and that's not really something iguanas can handle, so I like to keep her comfortable by keeping a lamp on her to stay warm. And as you can imagine, with a cage that big and a lamp at the top of it, there was a pretty decent amount of light in my room. There's a lot of buildup here, listener.
I'm learning so much about iguanas, though.
Yes. By the way, this is going to be its own separate Patreon release, just us describing the iguana's habitat. So the doorway and the corners of my room were really the only things that were slightly darkened at night. I bring up the cage and its light levels in my room as a point of clarity because I wanted to be clear enough that what I saw couldn't be shrugged off as a trick of the lighting. It was far too well lit to think there was any shadows in the dark playing tricks in my head. Okay. So when I rolled over that night and opened my eyes, I looked straight ahead towards the cage, and there in front of me, about 3 to 4 feet away, were 2 figures. Ooh. One tall and one short. I don't know why, but my instincts gave me the feeling that the shorter one was perhaps younger. There were no defining features for me to know that, but I either felt it or deduced it by comparing its frame to the size of the taller one, which was slightly bulkier in appearance, but still fairly slender, much like the smaller one. The other thing about the 2 figures is that they were faceless and didn't have any clothing. Their bodies looked like what I used to describe as a moving or shifting sand, but with a humanoid-looking figure to them. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, etc. The outward appearance was almost like it was static in a TV, but with a distinct sandy-looking texture, but moved in much of the same way that the white noise of TV static appears to shift or move ever so slightly. They had no face and no other distinguishing features, nothing. I've come now to believe that perhaps this is just now how my brain was comprehending their appearance. Like this was the form they had here maybe, or that perhaps it was some kind of perception filter of some kind. I obviously don't really know that for sure, but the more I think about it now, the more I feel like it was being obscured for me than it did that this is what was in reality, and perhaps I wasn't looking at the real thing. So not long after I noticed them, the tall one, which was now sitting, spoke to me. Like I said, there were no features, so I couldn't see it talking. I just heard it. It said, "Everything will be okay," and nothing else. It didn't make any gestures or any other movement or speech, only that. I could still not move or talk back, but I was also overcome with this feeling that it was in fact okay. I just felt fine, tired, but fine. And within the moment that it happened, I began feeling even more tired and fell back asleep again. I closed my eyes, and the next thing I remember is waking up to a bright Sunday morning. I've never felt threatened by those things, although part of me feels like I should have, if that makes sense. They were, in fact, intruding on me, and perhaps it's instinctive, though. I don't know what you call that kind of experience, a hallucination somewhere between sleep and wakefulness, or was it really there? Did I really see 2 figures in my room made of some kind of sandy material, or maybe obscured by it? Or did I dream it? Aliens? Ghosts? I don't know, but it's a vivid memory. I've had it for years, but no one else in the house experienced anything like this, of which I am aware. And like I said before, nothing else like that happened ever again. But a few months back, I began dreaming of them, and I'm not entirely sure if it's a coincidence or if I was perhaps more scared than I remember.
Weird.
Where's
the iguana setup payoff?
You know what? You have to go to the Patreon to find out. This isn't the first time we've heard stories of these staticky figures.
Shadow people, right?
Well, there's shadow people, but there's also static men. We've had this on the L-Files before, and we've looked it up. That there's sometimes these shadow entities also look like static entities.
Wow.
Something about that static entity thing to me is very scary.
Yeah.
Like it also just seems like so like plausible, like some sort of interdimensional, I don't know, something.
Totally.
It's really just a freaky thought.
Yeah.
That fuzzy being.
Jen. This is something I can't wrap my mind around, and that's usually what happens, A, when I can't wrap my mind around something, and B, if it's something that would scare me. You know, I tend to want to wrap my mind around things that I want to be true. So because I don't want this to be true, I'm like, no, can't think about it. Like, it just scare me. But the one thing I will say is that whatever it is, it's relieving to hear that they're saying everything's going to be okay. wonder why they couldn't look like things that make us feel that way.
Yeah,
Like
right.
they're kind of in the wrong costume for that message. But
I know how to calm this guy down. Let's get our super scary, ultra thin, staticky Sandy, no face costumes, and let's just go watch this guy sleep and then tell him everything's going to be fine.
100%. So I think they may need like a rebrand at some point. I also think sometimes I'm just going to turn this into a psychological thing, is I wonder if sometimes we tell ourselves things are going to be okay, but it's hard to believe. So we kind of imagine this other being telling us, because that it's easier to believe when it feels like it's happened to us than when we tell ourselves if I tell myself it's going to be okay, it's not that soothing. And so I wonder if if it was a dream or wasn't real, if that's why that kind of thing happens. And then if it was real, these things need better branding.
Totally, like a psychic reassurance of everything going to be okay, a subconscious psychic reassurance. Famed Swedish psychologist Carl Jung had no problem with the idea that our psychic energy could actually manifest in physical form, and there is something psychological there about, God, we are living in such a crazy time. I don't know how recent did this take place, Michael? Did it say, or? Well, it doesn't matter.
It's been in the past, because he said, he said he was about 15 or 16.
Gotcha.
So
Oh, okay.
he was a teenager.
Whatever.
He or she was a teenager at the time.
Yeah, these are trying times before and now. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, you might be spot on to something, Jen. You always have such good instincts for these things. And I loved your verbiage of the wrong costume. And that elicits such a visual cue. But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this could be our own way of telling us, through difficult times, that it's going to be okay, so we just have to hear it from someone, or better yet, something else.
Love it. All right, Jen, what story you got for us there?
Well, I love this because, I love Christmas. This story involves Christmas, and it's Christmas in July. And I just bought a Christmas tree a few days ago because they were having a sale.
No way.
At this place that I've always wanted to get a tree from. It's going to be a white tree this year.
Ooh.
Which I think would be kind of cool. So anyway, it was half off, and I thought, you know what? I don't need it right now. Put it in the closet, half off. Okay,
You'll
great.
be happy when November 3rd rolls around and you put up all of your Christmas decorations.
That's right. Okay, here we go. Hello, Michael, Bryce, and Riley, and Jen. I recently listened to an episode on The Fat Man in Red, and it reminded me of something my twin and I experienced on Christmas Eve night when we were around 7, I think. At the time, my mom and stepdad were living in my Nana's old house. She had moved to Tennessee with her old crotchety husband, not my grandpa. You'll find in this story that detail doesn't need to be there, and I love her for that.
We're getting more and more just like background information as these stories come in.
I like it.
That just help color the world, but really aren't necessary to
paint the picture.
Just like, I'm going to take down this step grandfather of mine any chance I get. So anyway, my parents are divorced, so they alternated holidays. This year, we were with our mother. As youngins do on Christmas night, they get up and plunder around the presents. My sister and I were up plundering as usual. Okay, so I guess I'll have to explain the way the house was sitting so this makes sense.
There we go.
If I remember right, the front door faced the south. Looking at the front door, the windows were on the left, facing the woods. Go figure. So we were up and talking. It was dead quiet, and we hear what sounds like walking on the roof. I was raised on a farm in the country of the deep south of Alabama, so I know what animals sound like when they walk. This sounded like hooves. Hooves. Hooves? Which is it?
Hooves.
Hooves.
Hooves. I'll take both.
The moon was full this night, so we look out the window and see the shadow of something on the roof. We look at each other wide-eyed, asking if we saw what we think we saw. It scared but excited us. I remember going to my mom's bedroom door and peeked in to see if my stepdad was still in bed. He was a major jokester, and we thought he might have been the culprit. He was sound asleep beside my mom, and that's when we started freaking out. I forgot to mention we heard bells and maybe a soft ho ho ho. It stayed on the roof. We freaked the fuck out and went back to bed and covered our faces with the blanket. Guess we fell asleep because the next thing I knew, it's morning. We told the parental units and they kind of laughed and brushed it off. My sister and I have talked about it over the years and she still remembers. I think that experience was what got me into everything paranormal. And Bryce, I definitely believe in mermaids. You are not alone, LOL. I have a couple more weird things that have happened to me over the years and I'm more than willing to share them with y'all another time. A mermaid lover, Felicia.
I love this story. I'm also going to say maybe it was that crotchety old step granddad just actually trying to do something nice for the kids, and instead you freaked out.
They had moved to Tennessee.
And Jen, I noticed you left out one little detail. I just skipped a sentence, and this is a spoiler alert. Christmas spoilers, everyone. Christmas spoilers. If kids are listening, Christmas spoilers. She said, as a kid, I never truly believed in Santa. Like, I always knew it was the parents. So, because that was my question, was like, why weren't they excited about the fact that Santa was on the roof and instead of terrified? But I guess if you don't believe in Santa and you suddenly hear animals and a man on your roof, that would be terrifying.
Yeah. Right. I can't believe I skipped that part. That's the most important part of this story because it's not someone who is wishfully thinking and kind of making it happen.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Jen? Because I thought this was a good one for Wet Hot Alien Summer, even though it's, a wintertime story, because one of the most popular UFOs of all time has to be Santa's sleigh.
Yeah.
It flies around in the sky. It's got a red light guiding it. Who knows what, it's magical. It seems to accomplish a lot in a small amount of time.
That's a great point.
But we've had we heard stories on our Christmas episode that we did with Betsy Sidaro on Santa of people actually seeing manifestations of Saint Nicholas.
Sure.
So
wow.
It's weird. It could fall under the Tulpa category, where if enough of us are believing in something, or that we sort of manifest it.
That would be nice.
She said unconvinced.
No, I'm saying it like, oh, you know what? Now I'm thinking that. But, I'm not sure because, again, the most important part is that they didn't believe in Santa. And I was going to say that, well, I think I stopped believing in him rather young. But I just remember this one night coming home from church on Christmas Eve, and we were standing in my driveway, and it was a very clear night. It was dark out, and I could see the North Star. And it just that magic sense in the air, from excited about Santa or just presents to a little spiritual, just this felt special, obviously because I just went through this ceremony that was like, this is a special night. So I get it. And then I swear I saw kind of a light through the sky, and I swear that night I heard bells on the roof, and my parents weren't doing that. And, I just think it was like wish fulfillment. But again, this wasn't that. So I don't know. It could be, I don't know. Maybe there's a neighbor that does all that kinds of crazy stuff. I truly don't think it was Santa, unfortunately.
God, but yeah, something made those bells.
Jen, it was me. You've forgotten to believe, Jen.
Oh my God, do you guys hear this?
Jen, I need you to move to a small town in Maine this Christmas where through a few mysterious misunderstandings, you shall fall in love and also discover the true meaning of Christmas.
And footnote, I'd like to see a white Christmas tree in your house this year.
Oh my God, I just said that. Wait, you guys, Michael, Bryce, Riley, Did you hear that?
I didn't hear anything.
No, what are you talking
This
about?
guy just shut up. Play it back later. This guy just came on and goes, it's me, Santa. Was that you, Michael?
No.
Weird.
I just got up for a glass of water.
Weird.
I'm freaking out right now. I'm sorry about everything I said. There is a Santa, and I'm sure that was him on the roof.
Okay, well, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll see if the Easter Bunny shows up. Santa?
Is that you?
Santa, are you banging around in
On the roof?
Jen's office? All right, we're back. We're reading your L-Files with Jen Kirkman. Bryce, what's your next story?
All right, I got another one. Here we go. This one is called Utah Bigfoot Story for Bryce. All right. Maybe you titled that, Michael. I don't know. Hello, Bigfoot boys. Love your show. I saw you all at FanX in Salt Lake City, and it was the highlight of my year. That's amazing. When all this COVID shit is gone, please come back for a visit. We would
to her credit, or this person's credit, not much happened after that because we've all been locked in our houses during a pandemic. So
God, no kidding.
But we'll take it. Thank you.
This story isn't mine, but raises the hair on my skin every time I tell it. Last year, I was down in Zion National Park with my coworkers on a work retreat. We took a Jeep tour up in the dense Zion forest, about 6,500 feet up. This was some dense-ass forest, which, while I have lived in Utah for 12 years now, this was my first time going to Zion and was very surprised at how dense the forest was. While we were up there, out of nowhere, there was a cow just stuck up there and scared the fuck out of me because at first I thought it was Bigfoot. I proceeded to ask our Jeep driver if he's ever seen or heard of any Bigfoot encounters in this area, to which he laughed and said, "You really believe that? You must be the kind of person that also believes in aliens and likes to take walks through cemeteries." Utah equals the biggest skeptics ever. Yeah, I have a lot to say on that. After our Jeep ride, my coworker asked me if our HR manager has shared her Bigfoot encounter with me. Okay, I know what you're thinking. HR? And while, yes, I am afraid of her name is Haley, she's pretty damn dope. So one day, I worked up the testicular fortitude, walked into her office, and asked her about her experience. Let me paint the picture for you. After an hour south of Salt Lake City, a suburb of Lehi, Utah, Haley lived right up against the East Mountain. This was around 17 years ago when she was just about 13 years old. The story goes, her and her 3 friends were hiking up this ridge very close to their homes. They had hiked it a few times before, but never this close to dusk. As they were hiking up, one of her friends, let's call her Chelsea, kept looking behind her, like someone was following her. Haley had enough and finally asked Chelsea, "What do you keep looking at?" Chelsea responded, "It feels like something's following me, like someone is just right on my heels." Haley scoffed back at her. "Well, if you look back again, tell me so I can look too." They made it up to the top of the ridge. It was getting dusky and they decided they should finally leave before it gets too dark. They were about a third of the way down when finally Chelsea told everyone to stop. She took Haley and pointed out what she saw. Haley told me he was on top of the ridge where they had just come down from. It was a very tall, dark figure and said she felt like he was looking at all of them. They saw him and he saw them. Suddenly the figure started to run after them, so naturally they started running. Haley said this thing was running so fast. The scariest part? She said when he was running downhill, he tripped and just continued to run on all fours. They got down out of the forested area and he was gone. They never spoke of it again. A few weeks later, Haley and Chelsea were babysitting Chelsea's younger sister, Allie, who was about 7 or 8. She was upset about something, stormed off and said, "I don't want to live here anymore. I hate that big dark man in the woods." And scene. It should be said that Haley is a very level-headed skeptic. She'd have to be for being in HR, am I right? She was very uneasy telling me the story and got scared all over again. She's an avid outdoors woman and goes camping a lot. She said she's never had any experiences since, but she said she tries not to think about it a lot. I 100% believe her story and think it's quite scary, at least one I'll never forget. Stay weird, my friends. Keep preaching that spooky word. Well, there you go. Well,
right.
Saw Bigfoot, obviously.
There's a lot of animals showing up in these stories. Like, what happened to the cow?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is, first of all, hope we don't have to beep out this person's name that's said about 1 million times since we've identified what city they're in and what their job is, basically. I'm a little worried about that, but everyone be cool. Yeah, I mean, Bryce, there seems to be a lot of Bigfoot sightings in Utah, especially around like Provo. Seems to be been a flap there in the past year or so. I mean, what's your take on this?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, first of all, there's a couple things that stand out in that story. One is that she saw it up on the ridge. A lot of people call these things ridge walkers. They use the ridges to sort of traverse their way, up and down the mountainous range. And then, yeah, when this thing ran on all fours, there's people that report these things that, they can easily go from 2 feet to like running on fours, somewhat like a gorilla, it's, so it's very strange, but it definitely sounds like they encountered a Bigfoot, as strange as that may seem. Look, thousands of people report seeing these things, from eyewitness accounts to photos, to trackways, to hair samples. So people are experiencing something in these woods, and they all seem to point to a large, hairy creature. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. I think there's something to the Bigfoot phenomenon. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least that our friend Haley actually might have encountered one.
I get scared whenever it goes to, and then it got on all fours. I don't know why that part always scares me.
Yeah, totally.
Because that's when I think, oh, it needs to go. I don't know. I go, whatever the thing is.
It's primal. Yeah.
It's primal, and also seems demonic. Like there's something dignified about, I'm a Bigfoot, I use 2 legs just like you people. But then when I get on all fours, I'm a demon dog.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Absolutely. Listen, I sort of collate and collect some of my favorite and what I think, offers some of the best evidence for Bigfoot in video form. And there's one that immediately I thought of a Bigfoot creature, what looks like a Bigfoot creature doing that. It's sort of running after this camera person and immediately goes down to all fours and picks up speed. And it's just sort of like moving along like a gorilla would, using its knuckles and its feet to sort of maneuver on all four. And it just did that so effortlessly. It was, it's crazy to think that, maybe these things are sort of a descendant of some sort of primate species like Gigantopithecus. Who knows? I have no idea. I'd love to get a close look at one someday.
Maybe you will.
Maybe I will.
Jen, why don't you read us your next story?
Hey guys, I'm the listener from Lawrence again. Do they mean Lawrence, Kansas or Lawrence, Massachusetts?
They do. This is a listener who wrote in on our last L-Files episode, I believe with Mystic Dylan and Adela Levine. She had a photo that had a green orb on it that we decided was a glitch in the new iPhone camera.
Got it. And I know you grew up near Lawrence, Kansas.
I did indeed.
And my favorite topic is the movie The Day After was about Russia nuking Lawrence, Kansas. Anyway.
I don't think I've seen that.
Check it out on YouTube. It was a made-for-TV movie that aired in the 80s to scare us all about nuclear war, even though unlike COVID or anything else, we couldn't do anything about it. So it's not like any action we could take.
There's
so there you go.
An awesome episode of The Americans where like they all watch that TV movie and it all fucks with them. Like all the characters in the show are all fucked up by watching that movie.
I love it. I certainly was. Oh, here we go. Hey guys, I'm the listener from Lawrence again. Thanks for checking out my photo. I'd never heard of the iPhone camera glitch, so I'm glad Michael was able to identify it. Now I'll stop showing it to people because I realize now that I just look like a dumbass. LOL. So I wanted to get your opinions on an experience my family had a few years ago. For a bit of a backstory, it was in the midst of my parents' divorce, and this night happened about 2 weeks after my dad moved out. At that time, my mother was just heartbroken. My sister was angry with my father, and they only fought when they talked. For me, I wasn't speaking to him at all. Keep in mind, my father was alive during this time, and he's still kicking today. I was asleep in my mom's bed with her, and at some point in the night, I woke up to the feeling of someone tightly hugging me. It was like a textbook bear hug, but it didn't exactly feel comforting. I opened my eyes and saw my mom fast asleep still. So, realizing this was someone or something unknown, I basically began having a panic attack and endured it until either I exhausted myself and fell back asleep or passed out. Who knows? The next morning, I couldn't get that experience out of my head. I noticed my mom and sister seemed off too, and they both said they didn't sleep well. I decided to tell them what I had felt in the night, and they both immediately just froze. My sister told us that she had a dream that my dad was in her room screaming at her. She said he was enraged and started taking all her pictures off her walls and throwing them on the ground, smashing them. When she woke up in the morning, all her pictures were on the floor. Not smashed, but as if they had fallen.
Whoa.
My mom's experience is what really scares me, though. She said she was sleeping and woke up to the feeling of my dad kissing her. She told us that it felt so real she was convinced he broke into our house. She jumped out of bed and searched the house for him, checking the windows and doors, but everything was normal. I believe this was someone posing as my dad to either mess with us as a not-so-funny joke or scare us. We lived in this particular house for a few years, and it was constantly filled with dark experiences. One being when we were moving out, we came back to the empty house to clean it. My dog, who had passed about a year before this, would always greet us by stepping onto the tile floor of the kitchen with his front paws and his back paws still on the carpet. So the sound it made was 2 click-clack steps of dog paws on the floor. When we walked into the house to clean it, we heard the distinct sounds of those 2 steps of my deceased dog. I refused to go in after that. Sorry for the long story. What do you guys think? Thanks.
Whoa.
I don't think, man, the dog thing doesn't seem dark to me. That's awesome.
Yeah, the
Right.
dog part was a nice little relief at the end.
Yeah. I don't know. Riley, what do you think?
Sounds like your dad is a malevolent wizard. That's what it sounds like to me.
Maybe it was Santa Claus. Maybe this is the same family where, maybe the dad and the step granddad, who's a crotchety old man, are the same dude. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. This is strange. The picture thing is strange, especially after seeing it in a dream.
Yeah.
Maybe some weird entity feeding off the angst in the house, or I don't know. Is it possible the dad snuck into the house that night and freaked everybody out?
Could be that too. But I did think about psychic projection or something somehow, some sort of, I don't know. It reminded me of that.
I agree. I don't think anyone came in and played a prank, even the dad. If it was only the daughter having that dream, you would think, oh, well, her pictures fell off the wall and she heard it in her dream and then turned it into that in her dream. But that's not what happened. And I do think it's some kind of psychic projection that everyone is sharing, and it's trauma based. I think there's like such a connection. I've never been able to explore it or read more about it so that I can come on this show with anything intelligent to say. But I feel like a lot of times I want to say there's got to be some psychiatric connection that can appear supernatural.
Definitely. That's
No, I totally
undeniable to the
vibe
whole
with that.
conversation. Yeah.
Listen, if think in terms of everything needs an energy source, and perhaps these, manifestations or spirit entities, they can use sort of traumatic psychic energy to fuel themselves and to, move things or to walk through the walls or to, make noise. Who knows? But God, how many times do we hear? It's like, you said that in that letter, they said there was a lot of dark times, perhaps whatever this thing is using that as an energy source to, manifest itself in some strange way.
Yeah. And as a counterpoint to that too, like the brain itself is really complex and mysterious and is going to protect itself. And so if it is undergoing trauma, it's going to process that trauma in a way that it can handle it. So there's got to be some sort of that taken into account when you're looking at paranormal experiences and stuff, where the consciousness itself is a paranormal experience. Just to be self-aware, so you can't rule out, your own perception in the paranormal conversation,
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I mean, all these things, everything we talk about, from UFOs to Bigfoots to ghosts to entity encounters, they could all be a manifestation brought forth by us as a human species. This could all be coming from us. And that kind of vibes with me in some strange way. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes like a circular thing, right? Because like, where are we coming from them?
Totally.
Like, where did our consciousness come from? If this is coming from our consciousness, then where does the consciousness come from? And we just get in a feedback loop forever and ever.
Yeah, mind before matter, for sure.
Speaking of feedback loops, why don't we close out this episode with Riley's L-File story? What do you got, Riley?
All right. This is titled The Maybe Not So Blessed One, or Blessed. My name is Abdo, and I'm writing you from across the pond, Morocco. Cool.
I've been there.
I want to go there.
Jealous.
Badly. Yeah, seriously.
I filmed a very bad movie there that I started. Some people really like it. It was fun.
All right. Anyways, that's The Hills Have Eyes 2, right, Michael?
Yep. That was it.
Yeah. Great work. Anyways, I was born and raised in a Muslim household that has stoutly believed in Allah, along with a myriad of other preternatural entities, of which spiritual apparitions prove part and parcel. Wow, what a sentence. Okay. The encounter I am to relate has haunted the back of my mind for as long as I can remember. When I was 5 years old, I went to visit my grandparents for the very first time. My grandparents live in a village that is an hour away from my hometown, and it was populated by family members ever since it was founded, until the promise of a better life in the city made them move away or death snatched them away. This person's very poetic.
This person's from Morocco, writes better English than any of us.
Seriously. I was sort of thinking that. I was like, okay.
Abdo, I'm gonna hire you to write our stories of high strangeness from here on out.
All right. Our visit only spanned 3 days, and on the day before the last, I was out with one of my aunts at dusk tending to the cattle, tracing our footsteps back to my grandparents' place of residence. Once we were a few steps away from the house, I saw a woman dressed in impeccably clean clothes, standing by the olive tree nearby my grandparents. Before my aunt could tell me who she is, I called her by her name, Mbarka, which translates to the Blessed One, and I walked towards her to say hi. I do not recall her saying anything apart from patting me on the head, giving a nod to my aunt, and beaming benevolently. The encounter over, I sprint into the house and tell my mom about how I met Mbarka and how warm she was, at which point my mom relinquishes the vegetable she was peeling for dinner, looks me dead in the eye, and asks, "Did you say Mbarka?" I answered in the affirmative, and she took me to a family portrait that hung on the wall in the other room, and she asked me to point out whom it was that I met. The moment my finger singled out the woman, fear strikes my mom's face. She pulls me into her and starts reciting verses from the Quran that are meant to protect me. My mom later told me that the woman I was supposed to have met had been dead for years. I protested that I had met her indeed, and that she could ask my aunt to collaborate the claim, but she knew better than to ask her sister, as the latter had suffered a major psychotic break that rendered her unreliable. Wait, oh, that's confusing. Was that?
So he said,
Oh, she had the psychotic break after this
corroborate.
experience. He wasn't hanging out with his aunt when she had already had the break. Okay,
right.
That's what it confused me. Anyways, I never ever had any contact with Mbarka apart from that one incident, but I haven't been able to shake off my encounter with her for years. That is the story. But so this was a family member though, but that was dead.
Yes. And mom was freaked out that the dead had returned, whereas the boy was like, "No, this is like a nice, beautiful lady by the olive tree."
And the aunt went insane.
And apparently, side note, the aunt's crazy. So I don't know. This is again so many just details around the edges of these stories that we don't get further glimpse into. But that's, I think, really beautiful story.
Yeah, it sounds like beautiful. Yeah, not so bad at all. Like,
I think he went to his ancestral home, saw one of his ancestors there, got to meet, she came to meet him, maybe a great grandmother or a great aunt.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
I think that's a peaceful story. Jen, what's your take?
Yeah, my take is there's like two classic themes here that wait a minute, there's no way you could have met her. She's dead. You know, that thing. She's been dead for 20 years, which I love because which ties very nicely into the child is like, what? It's not that weird to me. Again, bringing us back to what we talked about at the beginning of the episode. Younger people, there's less clouding their brain and less judgment and less, no, I don't accept that. It's this innocence. It's this, well, sure, I'm closer to the spiritual realm. That makes sense. I saw her. I don't care if she's dead. I saw her. And adults just, it's too much for adults. You know, they fight this and they
less
need
conditioning.
Yeah, there's less conditioning. And I think it can even make adults angry and shut down. And it's too bad because it could be a really beautiful moment between an adult and a child to go further. Well, tell me more. You know, I just think it's a really nice, and you know, to be honest, maybe that's why she appeared to someone younger.
Right.
Maybe she's been there and completely visible, but not to the eyes of, as you said, Bryce, like a conditioned adult.
You know, to sort of factually back up what you're saying, so in the reincarnation literature, what you'll find a lot is that these people, you know, these young kids who have these vivid memories and details of their past lives, so much so that they can name names, locations, dates, and faces, it all starts to fade away when they're around like 6 or 7. You know, so there is something to that perhaps, you know, as you're younger, you know, and when you're more open to just ideas and strange phenomena in general, then you're going to experience more of that, you know. And as we start to go through our you know, physically dense world, and then we close off some of those circuits, and yeah, who knows? But that definitely makes sense.
Spooky stuff, guys. Spooky stuff, as always, you listeners and your iguanas and your cows and your Bigfoot stories. We love it. Write to us, please. BigfootCollectorsClub@gmail.com, and send us your UFO stories this summer, please. Okay, that wraps up another episode. I want to thank our guest, Jen Kirkman, Godmother of Bigfoot Collectors Club, for joining us once again. Jen, Bigfoot is found in the woods, but where can you be found?
The opposite of the woods. Indoors. But online, you can find me at JenKirkman.com. And I would just say go there, and that's going to take you to where my podcast is and where my books and albums are and anything you need to know about me. So just JenKirkman.com. Enjoy that.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
And follow us on Instagram, Bigfoot Collectors Club, on Twitter at Bigfoot Pod, and our merch, as we said, head over to wearecampfire.media, click shop, blast away. Please give me a follow on Instagram at McMills. Bryce is at Mr. Bryce Johnson. Riley is Peace Drone. Boys, anything else to plug before we say goodnight until next week?
Yeah, I just want to plug my, if you didn't know already through my social media, and I've developed a new game, a board game called Dirty Picture Cover Up. And it's real simple. You draw a dirty picture, cover it up, get judged, and win. Anyway, check it out. Go to the website, thedpcugame.com, read the origin story, how I came up with this game, and, sign up for our newsletter. We're about to start pre-sales. Be the first one to get your hands on a DPCU board game.
That's awesome, dude. Congrats. Riley, what's the status of Club Bryce's everything completely absorbed by the strange? Is it available on iTunes yet?
It's coming out any day now. It's been released to the streaming providers, and it is going through the processing. So if it's not up by the time this episode's airing, it will be shortly. So put it on your summer playlists, share it with your friends. It's worldwide, baby. Club Bryce.
Okay.
Oh, I'm proud of you guys. I can't wait to hear it.
You may want to drop a tab of ecstasy before you play it.
Yeah.
I'll definitely do that. That's really fun to do when you're sitting alone in a pandemic. I just started rubbing the couch.
There you go.
That's so awesome. Okay, everybody. Until next week, I remain Michael McMillan for Bryce and Riley. We love you guys. Stay safe. Stay at home if you can. Stay out of the woods. Don't go anywhere within 6 feet of Bigfoot. Again, thanks to Jen. Until next time, good night.
And go get regressed. Yay!
All right.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray. Our theme song is Come Alone by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. If you like the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps get the podcast to more listeners. To support the show, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock multiple reward episodes every month.